All right, it says we are live on YouTube.
Thanks, Christy, and sorry to everyone. I had some internet problems here at my own house, so sorry about the delay. So I'm just going to welcome everyone to our meeting. It is being live streamed electronically, and this is the November 16th meeting. So welcome to everyone, and I know we've got some guests and some other people doing delegations. We'll come to them a little bit later. But the meeting is now open, and if I can ask everyone for a moment of silence, please. Thank you, everyone. I'll also remind everyone on council that if you do have a disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. And I have a first motion. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings that council agreed to move items 8B from information item to action item for discussion. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We also have a motion, and it was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight, that the regular meeting of council agenda dated November the 2nd, 2021 be approved as circulated. I believe, Claus, you had mentioned something that you might want to put under other business. You want to bring it up here?
Yeah, I can bring it up now if you wish, or do it under.
Well, no, it's just that we need to get this onto the agenda. If you're going to bring something up, we need to get it onto the agenda for other business.
Yeah, I'd like to put something under other business, an announcement I wish to make under other business on the agenda, please. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I have a question then, Jeff.
I just was wondering if I could bring something out real quick for other business too as well. I just want a quick talk or update about some recreation stuff.
Okay, well. So I'm just going to go around and make sure that we have consensus here to do these two things under other business. I'll go to you first, then Claus.
Yes.
And Ian. Yes, Karen.
Can I ask what specifically Claus wants to bring forward for a little bit of information?
Sure.
It's a personal announcement, Karen. I'll get into the details of it later.
Okay.
Not trying to avoid, sorry.
Okay, and Jeff?
Yeah, good for me, thanks.
And it's fine for me. So when it comes to the other business, we'll take those two issues up. Thank you, everyone. Then I have a move. It's been moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight that the regular meeting of council agenda dated November the 2nd, 2021 be approved as circulated. So if I can ask the mover and the seconder, then if we can just change that to amended agenda, if that's okay.
I agree.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks. So I guess the next thing then is that we have the next motion then was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Claus Vandermeer that the minutes of the regular meeting of council, November the 2nd, 2021 be approved as circulated. Anything on the minutes?
Question or a comment?
Yes, now is this on the minutes, Karen, or because I'm going to go immediately to the business arising from the minutes? So if it's to do with the minutes?
It's probably then business arising.
Okay, thank you. I'll come right back to you. All in favor then? Okay, that's carried. Thanks. So straight back to you, Karen, first.
I just wanted to clarify, because I had been asked about my vote during the last meeting as to why I voted against all the options. And I just wanted to state that my reason had to do with the fact that when the details came out from the Integrity Commissioner of reference to the conflict of interest and disclosure of interest, I felt that there were other members of council that also some of those matters pertain to, of non-disclosure of interest, et cetera. And therefore that the recommendation should have been strictly that this was a learning information for all of us. And that's how it should have been addressed versus a reprimand and a public apology. So I just wanted to announce why, since I was questioned about why I voted against it. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, thank you. I was also going to mention 2 or 3 things here. I just need to find them because when I was reading, I made a note under the business arising from. Actually, you touched on one there, Karen, regarding the issue that council passed. Was that council request that Councillor Straight draft a letter of apology to the municipal bylaw officer and council. I just have a question about that. Maybe it's more to Christy or Andrew, but did we have a timeline on that? Does anybody recall, did we have a timeline on that for that apology? Yes, Andrew.
I have not seen any timeline placed on that, but I did send some correspondence to follow up on that today. So I was going to see about that.
Oh, okay. Do you mean correspondence? I haven't, to all of us or what?
No, to Councillor Straight to
Okay.
Discuss that.
Okay. Thank you then. And I don't think, no, I had nothing else then. Okay, Claus?
Yes, I have, and I'm not sure if it's under the minutes of the last meeting, Reeve, but when the Integrity Commissioner was there, I asked a question in regards to the proposal from the council for the launching of a canoe facility launching pad on Rima Valley Drive, whether I had a conflict of interest. It was a little unclear, his answer to me, so I questioned the Integrity Commissioner to give me an official answer from him to make myself clear exactly whether I had a conflict of interest or not. And he wrote me back a letter as of this morning and indicated that I do not have a conflict of interest. If I wish to take part in the discussion of the proposed canoe launching area, that I had every right to do so. So when that comes up, I will be doing that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, you commented just at the beginning, you weren't sure if it was in those previous minutes. Yes, it was. It was number 1C. That's where it was, 1C under disclosure of interest. And that's where you did.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
I see that
thank
now.
you, Claude.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to clear that issue up because I followed up with them and I'm very clear in my mind where I stand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you then. Okay, then we're going to move on if there's no other business arising from those minutes. We've got 2 delegations tonight, and I'm really happy with the first one to welcome Mayor Sean Panko and their CEO Malcolm Morris. As everyone knows that we've been working for a long time on this. And the first delegation, I'm just going to hand over to both of you. I don't know who's speaking first, but it's great to have both of you with us, Sean and Malcolm. And I'm going to be really keeping close eye on that 10 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome both of you. This
Thank
is
you,
on
Mr.
this
Chair.
is on the cost sharing. Thanks. Thanks.
Well, thank you, and great to see all members of council and staff, including some new faces today. I'll start off just with a brief, I guess, comment tonight and turn it over to Malcolm for more of the formal part of the presentation. But I wanted to thank Montague, both this council and previous councils, for your past participation and current participation in recreational cost sharing. And if we go back about 5 years ago, we had worked with our municipal partners, including many members of this council, to redefine the methodology for the recreational cost sharing. And through the consensus and work of all our municipal partners, we developed a model which we believed was the most appropriate method of distributing the cost sharing between the town of Smiths Falls and all of our municipal partners. And I believe it's worked quite well over the last 5 years. And unfortunately, the pandemic has impacted all of our abilities to enjoy recreational space and enjoy our community centers. But we see operations have really ramped up through late fall and into, I guess, into November. And we anticipate, of course, the unbridled demand for ice time is going to continue to grow as people have the opportunity to return to more of a normal life. We met between both staff and municipal leaders earlier this year. We also provided opportunities to tour the facility, to just check in on where everyone sat, where their thought process was. And through that, we just there was a consensus that we would sort of go back, recheck our numbers. In other words, recheck the growth in each municipality, and apply those numbers to the previously determined methodology. And so I believe Malcolm's got some follow-up based on that. But we're excited to be back here. We're prepared to answer any questions. We're preparing, obviously, to set the stage for the renewal of this agreement. And we look forward to the ongoing cooperation of all our municipal partners when it comes to recreational cost sharing and the provision of a great recreational asset, obviously, unfettered access to all the residents of Montague Township.
Thank you, Sean. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. I'll just share my screen. I have a brief presentation that we hope will keep us within that 10-minute window. Okay, so thumbs up if you can. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, great. So we're delighted to be here, and I'll jump right in to the presentation. So as the mayor had indicated, we've enjoyed the last 5 years of being partners in this endeavor, and the current agreement that we have in place expires at the end of December of this year. So consequently, we assembled the heads of council and the administrators for each of the partners back in March, actually, and started a dialogue, all leading to the crafting of a new agreement. And so that's why we're here this evening. So the proposal on the table is for another 5-year term, which would cover the period from 2022 till 2026. The agreement is largely unchanged. There are a few changes, and I'll go through those in a subsequent slide. And I think it's worth noting that the group that got together ended the discussions, I think we had 3 meetings, with broad support for the agreement that we're proposing. And I know Drummond North Elmsley considered it last week. I believe it was approved. We're going in front of to Elizabethtown Kitley next week. I think it's going to Rideau Lakes next week as well. So these discussions are occurring amongst the partners within the month of November. So we're here tonight to present it and give you some food for thought as you consider entering the new agreement. So a little bit of background, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I think many of you probably are aware of this. The assessment-based model that Mayor Pankow spoke of is, we felt it has worked reasonably well over the last 5 years. It's something that's used in other areas. The premise basically is that your proximity to a recreational facility is the key determinant in going to that facility. Sounds like a very intuitive statement, and it is. The closer the facility, the more apt people are to go and enjoy it. So the assessment model takes basically the assessment in the areas that would contribute or flow into a recreation facility and uses that as a way to allocate costs. So the model that was developed by Howard Allen actually back in 2016 also aligns with the catchment areas of sporting organizations. That's a key factor because this model only makes sense if those organizations contribute or tend to gravitate to a certain facility. So we made sure that they lined up with the sporting organization boundaries. And as mentioned, this model is used elsewhere as well. Perth and Carleton Place, two close examples. So I'll just go through some of the key features of the existing agreement and the proposed new agreement. So basically, we take the net cost of operating the facility. So that's all the costs directly associated with the facility. We remove any revenues. Most of those revenues are ice rental fees. We also have some other revenues from the second floor area that we rent out from time to time. Not so much since COVID, but we hope to get back into that soon. So all of those revenues offset the gross cost of the facilities, and we come up with a net cost. The net cost is then distributed proportionally amongst the partners. And so we made sure that this agreement is based on the actual net costs, and we share the calculations for those net costs with the treasurers of each of the partner municipalities. We also have a cap of 5%. So in the event costs increase considerably, each partner is only responsible for up to a 5% increase. COVID was a great example of where that came in handy for the partners. Our costs increased well above 5%, our net costs, because we weren't renting as much ice, of course. But it's worth noting that from year to year, the partners would not pay more than 5% of what they paid the previous year. We also have a clause in here that would distribute savings. So if those net costs go down, and that did happen within the last 5-year term, we saw about I think it was a 9% decrease in 1 year. It was 2019 actually. Then we distribute those savings back to the partners. So the next slide, what the group felt was important was that the apportionment percentages were based on the MPAC data from 2016. That's the last time MPAC updated their 4-year assessment cycle. The group felt it was important to update those figures based on the growth that we've all experienced in the intervening time. The difficulty in doing that, of course, is MPAC has not released the new 4-year assessment cycle. And we just got information within the last couple of weeks that they're not going to do that until probably 2023. So the group felt, okay, if we don't have the updated MPAC information, at least we could have a look at our respective 2021 returned rolls. So that captures any new development that may have occurred. So we did that. We had Howard Allen take the data from the treasurers. He updated the model, and there's a slight adjustment in the allocation percentages. I have a slide later on to demonstrate what those changes look like. In the longer term, there was a commitment from the group to us update the assessment figures based on MPAC's 4-year cycle when it is available. So if the prediction that it'll be done in 2023 comes to fruition, we would then take those figures and update the model at that time. Some of the partners felt, okay, that's great in principle, but if there's a significant increase in one partner over the other, we need some sort of mitigating measure to make sure we even out those increases. So we've agreed and incorporated into the agreement a phase-in period. So if any partner experiences a 10% increase in their proportionate share, we would apportion that over a 2-year period instead of in 1 year, just to soften that influence. So what does it look like? Well, based on the 2021 roles that we used, this is what we came up with. So you'll see we have all the partners listed. The 2016 study is based on MPAC's figures. The current study is, as I said, based on the 2021 roll. And so we had a bit of an adjustment, not huge in any one area, but I think the one of interest tonight is the Montague one went from 11.97% to 12.87, an increase of 0.9%. So what that means is that 12.87% of net facility costs would be apportioned to Montague in the first year of this agreement until such time as MPAC releases their new 4-year assessment cycle. The other thing that we enshrined in the agreement, and I know this was important to Montague during the last round of discussions, was a communications conduit, some routine manner of getting together to talk about the agreement, talk about the operation of the facility, just a dialogue to say how's this going? How are we doing with revenues? How are we doing with costs? So at the time, Jasmine and I put together a terms of reference for a joint municipal recreation advisory panel. I know that's a mouthful, but that's all of us getting together to have a chat in simple terms. We couldn't get traction on it last time around from the other partners, but I think we'll have traction on it this time around. So I hope that's, I think that's important to Montague, and it's something we've committed to do as the Town of Smiths Falls, is to have that ongoing dialogue. And then lastly, a few principles about the arena financials that I think are important. Only costs directly attributable to the arena, facility management and operations are included in the cost formula. We don't have any costs related to parks operations or any other town services. It's strictly costs directly associated with running the arena. We apportion management costs to this facility, of course, but again, only those directly related to the facility, and that works out to about 38.5%. So the director, some of the support staff, not all of their costs are attributable to this contract. I think that's important for everyone to understand. And again, just to emphasize it, operational costs related to other facilities are not included in the formula. And another important element is that the principal and interest costs on the original building of the facility are excluded from the formula. So the partners are only paying their share of net operating costs, not capital goods. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Malcolm and Sean, and thanks for that great delegation and all the details. Like you've really covered, I think, all of the points. So I'm going to just open it up if we do have any questions from our council. Yes, Karen.
Thank you. A question with reference to the change in the percentage allocation. I know it's not much, but to go up the 0.97, how exactly did that come about? Like for us to go up that difference?
So great question. And so through the chair, so what Howard Allen did is he took the assessment figures from the 2021 roll for each municipality, put them into the model, and essentially Montague's assessment figures rose at a higher rate than the other partners. So there's an important distinction there, and I'm glad you raised the question. This doesn't mean assessment for Montague rose by 0.9%. It just rose 0.9% in relation to the other partners. So you had more assessment growth than the others on a proportional basis.
Okay, thanks, Malcolm. Karen, Claus, you're next there.
Thanks, Reeve. Malcolm, question in regards to some of those percentages, a follow-up from Councillor Jennings. I'm surprised that some of them actually went down significantly.
So again, I would say they're relative to the other partners. So it wouldn't necessarily mean that Smiths Falls, for example, dropped in our total assessment. It's just our assessment compared to Montague's grew more than the other 4 partners.
Follow-up question, Reeve, if I may.
Yes.
On your slide where you're trying to develop a committee to be part of an advisory committee, I guess I call it for lack of a better word. You said you're not able to put that together just yet. Are you close to being able to put that together, or where are you in that respect?
Yeah, so again, through the chair, we have the terms of reference already completed. So once the parties enter the agreement, we would start the work of that group right away.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on that, Claus and Malcolm, if the team or the group, say in the end, didn't agree on the terms of reference and couldn't agree on getting together even, then I would still propose that we in Montague would still really like to be able to sit at the table for exactly the reasons you just gave us. So I wouldn't necessarily think that all 6 have to be there, or we would eliminate some if the others weren't or whatever. So I'm just reaching out like we always have, that we would love to be able to have that opportunity, whether the others want to or not. Thanks. And I did see another hand, I think Jeff. Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, and thanks, Malcolm and Sean for coming. I mean, recreation and sharing recreation, I think, is obviously important, and I agree. We want to support that because it's something that we don't have in our town. I do have a couple of questions. I guess the first one, obviously, we have a hard time until an advisory committee maybe is really put together, which I'm very supportive of the controlling of the costs that the rink is. And I'm kind of curious of, in that next 5 years, the rink is a fantastic facility for the town and the area. And I'm wondering, is there a change in any of the marketing philosophies or how that's going to work in order to help sort of reduce the costs by in turn increasing the revenues and looking at the opportunities of the advertising and also the use of all the open space in that building? And I asked that question in that relation to keep our costs down too as well. To see how we can utilize that, like if there's businesses that can go into the rink, or is that like a discussion point that's being sort of happening with the town?
If I can start with that.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a real mutual interest in trying to maximize our revenue opportunities and minimize our expenses. And obviously, I mean, the town still bears 42% of the net operating costs. And so council's priority has, and staff has been to find methods of increasing revenue, summarize time, and as I said, mitigating our expenses. And a good example was the Honeywell energy audit, which led to some changes, which led to that reduction in expense in 2019. But I'll turn over to Malcolm for further comment on this question.
Yeah, I think the mayor's captured it. We're all equally motivated to keep the net cost low. And in fact, the town is incented to raise revenues because, if our costs exceed that 5% threshold, the townships don't pay more than 5%. The town underwrites the loss. So I think the principle of we're all equally motivated is sound. But I can state that we believe there are ways to leverage more revenue opportunities. Advertising is one you mentioned, and you're quite right. We were on track to do that before the pandemic hit, and that's somewhat changed things. But we believe there's more revenue opportunity there, and I think one of the a appropriate agenda item for the joint group would be for us to explain what we're doing in that regard as one example.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Lots of things that we can discuss that we're all motivated to see happen.
And just a follow-up comment, my last question. I appreciate that because I think that there is a lot of opportunity there. I mean, nice to hear from the ideas coming out there as far as how we can do that, and not obviously not just talking points, but like maybe what agencies we're bringing in to support that. And I look forward to hopefully we can have that conversation. The other one too as well I have is a lot of cost sharing agreements. The reason why we do that too as well is, and I can use Perth as an example, like I'll use, if I want to go use a Perth facility, there's an out of town and there's a town rate. So like now we have these, so if you're paying into it, if I'm part of Drummond North Emsley, I'm paying into their rates. I don't pay that rate, but being in Montague, we don't pay into that. So we do, but right now I don't see any of that with this agreement and talking about having different rates for the out of town side. And I'm just curious if there was any thought process behind that, or if that was, because I know you use a lot of comparisons to the other agreements that I believe do that. So I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so good question. And that's something we're looking at through our pricing strategy for ice time. So it wouldn't necessarily apply to the partners, but it would be part of our overall revenue generating strategy.
Yeah.
Historically, the vast majority of rental or users tend to be within the partner municipalities. Leading up to COVID, we had a lot of interest from Ottawa when restrictions were put in place, but we're kind of going back to normal now. But to answer your question directly, yes, we are looking at that as part of our overall pricing strategy.
Thank you. So I see no other questions, Sean and Malcolm, but I just want to say, first of all, thanks to Smith Falls for not just taking the lead on this issue of cost sharing, but also to facilitate our meetings. As you say, we've had 3, and thank you for facilitating that. And also, I think that we also should thank Howard Allen overall for doing good work for us, because I do happen to believe, and I think I remember what it was like before we had no cost sharing agreement. It was a real schmozzle, but I'm certainly a believer in this assessment based model. And to me, as it's been said many times and around the table of the joint group, was that it really was the most fair way to do something that was extremely complicated prior to when we came together to put this together the first time. So lots of people to thank, and we're going to then move on. And thanks both of you for coming. I do have a motion though. Here it was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that the council receive the delegation from Mayor Sean Panko and CAO Malcolm Morris from the town of Smith Falls regarding the municipal recreation cost sharing multi-party agreement for information. All in favor? That's great, thanks. And good luck
Right.
with all of the other municipalities, guys, and we look forward to our next get together. Thanks a lot.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
And now we're going to go to our next delegation. And I'm not sure, is Summer with us?
Yes, I am.
Yes, okay, so Summer Casgrain Robertson, it's very nice to see you again. And I know it's been a while, but in the past, I know you've always given us such great presentations and such a positive outlook on everything. So I just want to welcome you. And is there someone else with RVCA with you here tonight?
Yes, I also have Glenn McDonald, who's our Director of Science and Planning. So I'll be giving a presentation, and then Glenn and I can tag team any questions you may have.
Thanks, and welcome then also, Glenn, to you.
Thank you.
So over to you then, Summer. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. So are you able to see my slide deck?
Can you make it any bigger?
Yes. There, how's that?
That's great.
Okay, excellent. All right, so thank you very much for having me back. This is, I would say, part 2 of my presentation from back in the spring. Lots of good discussion from that presentation, and I think a real interest in hearing a little bit more about our development review process and how we work with municipalities on that. And ultimately how we're looking for areas for improvement. So that's what I hope to cover this evening. So on the first slide, just wanted to acknowledge that conservation authorities and municipalities very much have a shared goal, and that is sustainable economic development. We recognize it's a big focus of not only our member municipalities, but the province, to always be increasing economic development opportunities. Primarily housing as well right now is a huge topic of interest and a real need to increase the housing supply. And when you look at, as a municipality or the province wanting new development, redevelopment, and ultimately recreation and tourism as well, it's all to also grow your tax base. And when we look at that as the goal, there's a few things you need to do to accomplish that. And one is you need to make sure you have the ingredients in place to enable development. And that would include having potable water supply. So you can only increase housing, increase growth if you have enough drinking water and drinking water of a quality that's potable for new communities and expanding communities. You obviously need land supply to be able to facilitate increased development. And then also green space is attractive for recreation and tourism, and clean lakes and rivers. We've seen it time and time again that when you have algae blooms or decreased water quality, you start to see property values decrease, and also decrease in interest from tourists and also recreational opportunities. So how do we accomplish those goals? Well, it's really about avoiding natural hazards. So the one that most people are familiar with is areas that are prone to flooding. So trying to direct development away from floodplains. And that's not only to protect obviously people and their primary investment, which is their home. But anytime you increase development in a floodplain, you're really dispersing those floodwaters to another property. And so you can actually inadvertently impact your land supply by forcing floodwater onto other property that wouldn't normally flood. Also important to protect natural features. So we know that areas that are wooded and also wetlands, they act like sponges. So they slow down runoff and they hold water. And this helps actually reduce the overall impact of flooding. So without those types of natural features, we would actually have larger floodplains, which would further decrease your land supply. Managing runoff is for the same reason, but also to ensure that we're protecting water quality. So anytime we have nutrients or contaminants running off into lakes and rivers, that's typically where you run into water quality problems or issues with algae blooms. Runoff can also impact your drinking water, whether you're drawing from groundwater or surface water. And last is protecting sources of drinking water. So in the Montague context, most of your development would be on private servicing. So wanting to make sure that any redevelopment or especially new development is taking place in areas where we won't impact the quality or the quantity of groundwater. And obviously across our watershed, we have a lot of thin soils, a lot of rock, bedrock at surface, and it can be fractured in some areas. And this poses a real challenge for private development in the sense that septic systems can be a source of contamination and can actually impact the aquifers that private wells are drawing from. So that's a constraint and a challenge for development in our area. So how do we accomplish this sustainable economic development? It's really a couple of different phases. So municipalities and conservation authorities work closely at two key stages. One is land use planning. So anytime somebody has a development project, we always encourage them to go to the municipality first to understand what approvals they may need under land use planning. So at the county level in Lanark, the county is responsible for official plan amendments, subdivision approvals, and severances. And then at the lower tier level, you take care of zoning bylaw amendments, site plan control, minor variants. So it's really important before somebody begin a development to understand if they will need any one of those planning approvals. And when they make an application to either the lower tier or upper tier municipality, that application is circulated to conservation authorities, and we comment on a few key areas, including natural hazards. So that would be floodplain, unstable slopes, and erosion. Natural heritage, which would be that wetland and woodlot areas. Also hydrogeology, that's where we would look at any impacts on groundwater, especially potable water. And we also comment on stormwater management and source protection. So we are not the approval authority for planning. Municipalities issue approvals, but we do provide you with comments in all of those technical areas that you take into consideration when making your decisions. So once somebody has nailed down any planning approvals they need, then that's when they would move on to the permit stage. So typically, development would need potentially building permits from the municipality and also potentially septic permits. And that may be issued also by the Conservation Authority or the health unit, depending where you are. And the person may also need approval from the Conservation Authority for a Section 28 permit. And that may be because the development is in an area that's floodplain or interferes with a wetland or involves some sort of water course or shoreline alteration. So this slide kind of shows you that municipalities are responsible for approving planning applications, building permits and septic permits, and conservation authorities only comment at the planning stage. And then we have a role of issuing permits at the permit stage. But it shows you very much who's responsible for what and how the municipal role and the CA role work together. So the value of this integrated development review process is important because by having the municipality and the conservation authority at the table at the beginning, it really allows us to identify issues at the very beginning of somebody embarking on their development review process. So we always encourage applicants at the very first stage to pre-consult with municipalities and the conservation authority. So before they submit any sort of application, come in and speak to us. It's a free process. All the municipalities and the conservation authorities offer it, and it can really save the applicant time and money moving forward. And the reason is if they sit down with us together at the very beginning and they lay out what it is they want to do in terms of development, we can help scope what sort of work they may need to undertake, what sort of consultants they may need to engage. And we can also scope the level of effort. So we never want to see an applicant spend any more money than they need to or undertake any more studies than they need to. So we can help scope what their application requirements would be. It also helps us identify any sorts of constraints that they may encounter later on down the development approval process. So if they'll have any issues or hurdles at the permitting stage, we want to identify those up front. And also it allows us to be consistent across municipalities. So because the conservation authorities operate across the watershed, it's often the same staff that are providing a lot of these planning and regulatory services across multiple municipalities. So it does help provide a consistent approach across the county and levels the playing field for all the applicants and the consultants that they engage. So we have a map here to show the last 5 years. So we pulled some statistics together for 2015 to 2020. And this shows that over that 5-year period, we reviewed 154 planning applications in Montague. And we also reviewed 41 applications for Section 21 permits. And we're just in the process actually of enhancing our tracking and our ability to report. So we'll be able to give you some more refined numbers for Montague, but on average, over 95% of the planning applications that we review, we have no objection to. And also above 95% of Section 28 applications we receive are approved. So sometimes there's this myth or impression out there that conservation authorities are very restrictive and we don't approve very much. And, you know, the statistics certainly speak for themselves that that is certainly not the case. The vast majority of permit applications that we receive are approved, and the vast majority of planning applications that we review have no objections. So it's really that handful of applications that have constraints on the property, whether it be wetland, floodplain, or fractured bedrock. That's where we obviously have to work closely with applicants to figure out how we can support their development application or help mitigate any potential issues. So in terms of a last slide, wanted to kind of show that despite the fact that most applications move forward without issue, we still are always looking for ways to improve. So it's important to us that we're offering a service that's efficient and effective, not only for the applicants, but also efficient for the municipalities and the CA. So a few things that we've done in recent years include cutting our review timelines in half. So a couple of years ago, we cut both our timelines for providing municipalities with planning comments, but also our timelines for issuing Section 28 permits in half. And we report those results annually on our website. We've also worked with municipalities to promote pre-consultation and early engagement, but we're always looking for new ideas. And a lot of our applicants do come in and do pre-consultation, but there continues to be applicants that don't. And that often ends up being the files where we run into challenges further down the line in the development review process. We've created checklists to outline application requirements and also trying to scope minimum application requirements. This is really important to help applicants make sure that they understand what information they need to include with their application so that it's considered complete and can move forward. But we also want to make sure applicants are engaging qualified consultants. So sometimes we have applications that run into problems, and it can be because a consultant has been hired that just doesn't have the area of expertise that's needed for the reports or the studies that are required. We've also posted all of our submission requirements, our policies, our fee schedules, and even an online property screening map. All of that information is online, so applicants and consultants have easy access. And we also, before COVID, we're hosting annual information days for municipalities, contractors, and consultants. And that was a great opportunity for us to explain our role in development review. It was especially helpful for new contractors and new consultants, but it was also an opportunity for us to answer any questions and also to receive feedback from them. So very often contractors and consultants have really good suggestions and recommendations for us to improve our process. And that was a great venue to tease out some of that feedback. And then in terms of key initiatives moving forward, we're updating our development review policies. And we're doing that with a working group that's involving all municipalities as well as other sectors, including developers and the agricultural community. And our goal is to have policies that are easier to read, more comprehensive, and clearer, so that it's an easier tool for applicants and their consultants to use. We're also updating our development review MOUs with municipalities, and that'll help clarify roles and responsibilities of both the CAs and the municipalities in development review. We just finished drafting a Hydro-G procedures guideline. We're hoping that this will be approved by the county in the next few months. And that document is really meant to address some challenges we've been having with particularly severance and subdivision applications on private servicing. And that document will help consultants and applicants scope and phase in the types of studies that their consultants need to do, again, to make sure they're not doing too little or too much to support their application. And as I mentioned, always looking for opportunities to increase pre-consultation and work more closely with development review teams within municipalities, and continuing to promote planning first. So we want to make sure people talk to the municipality first about any planning approvals they may need, and then do permitting second. And timely circulation of applications to conservation authorities so that we have time to respond and give you planning comments well in advance of you having to make decisions with planning applications. So I'm going to end there with a slide that just shows you the planner out of our office that handles both plan review and Section 28 permit applications is Eric Lalonde. So anytime that members of the public have questions, Eric is their best point of contact. But of course, Glenn McDonald as the director and myself as the general manager are always available to answer questions and come to council like we are tonight with more information. So hopefully I touched on a few areas of interest, but I very much welcome any sort of questions on topics or items that we may not have covered in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. So I will now open it up to council for any questions. And Yes, so now I can see everybody. So yes, we'll open this up for any questions. Karen?
Just a question in reference to the comment made about having applicants, meaning our residents, sit with you at first to go through anything. I'm just a little confused on the, when a resident, say for example, puts an application into the township with reference to a development. I know that our planner sends off to RVCA to get feedback. Is that not sort of the same thing as you'll review things at that point in time and you would bring forward any concerns that you might have?
So pre-consultation would actually happen before an applicant would submit a planning application. So when somebody is thinking about doing a development, that's when we encourage them to come in and talk to the Conservation Authority and the municipality. So it would be before any sort of applications are submitted to the municipality or the Conservation Authority. So they would come in and say, this is the piece of land that I'm interested in developing, and this is the type of development I want to do. So whether it's severances or a subdivision or a home or a business, and we would give them, you know, as much information as we can at that time so that they can use that information to then prepare their planning application that would go into the municipality, which you've correctly indicated would then be circulated to us for formal comments. But at that point, when we're reviewing a planning application and submitting comments back to the municipality, we hope that we would have already had a conversation with that applicant well before they even submitted that planning application.
Follow up though?
Yes, yeah.
So, but if a resident wasn't aware to do that and just went with the process of submitting to the municipality, when the municipality was asking for formal comments, would RVCA not give a formal comment then with reference to if there were any issues with the property in question?
Yes, absolutely. So that is how the process unfolds. But we just encourage applicants to come in and speak to us in advance so that they understand going in what any sort of constraints they might face. But also we find it saves them time and money. So sometimes an applicant will submit a planning application, and had we had a conversation with them in advance, we can help scope some of the technical studies that they have to do. We've actually had examples where applicants have engaged consultants to do studies that actually weren't necessary. And had they spoken to us, we could scope that type of work. So it's pre-consultation is not required. They can simply submit an application and we'll comment on it. But it is helpful for all the parties involved if they come in and have a pre-consultation conversation with us. And it usually helps the applicant really focus in on just the work that they have to do for that particular application. And it often saves them time because it means that once the paperwork is submitted, it moves quicker. We're familiar with the file and a lot of potential problems have already been resolved.
Okay, I'm going to follow up offline with some questions. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jeff first, then Ian.
Yeah, I have a couple, if you don't mind. First of all, that was a great interchange there because I was curious about the pre too as well. So the pre is basically free, but because when it's submitted, there's a cost to that, right? So I mean, like, I think that's a great learning lesson for us, the municipality too, as well, to make sure that we're advising everybody to do that pre, which I think is correct.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. The other side, the Hydro G side, I'm glad you really touched on that because I know it's a bone of contention for a lot of people of the confusion. I guess I'm curious is that you're submitting something to the county, which is great, but is that also a made for county Hydro G sort of thought process, or does it take into consideration all of the areas throughout the county, like and all the different townships? Like we're not going to be treated the same as the ideas are not going to be the same as Tay Valley as us to Mississippi Mills.
So that's a great question. So we've prepared that Hydro G procedure document with Lanark in mind. So it was drafted really tailored to Lanark County. And then the hope is that once we bring it through Lanark, we would also potentially bring it to some of the other areas outside of Lanark where we do Hydro G work. But within Lanark County, I think it's generic enough to address all of the situations, but obviously within each lower tier municipality, you may have situations where one municipality might have more fractured bedrock than another, but the guideline speaks to all of those scenarios. And so it's really meant to say, if you have a site with these types of constraints, this is the type of scoped technical work that needs to be done, and this is how you can phase it in. So I think any applicant in any of the lower tier municipalities will be able to use the document and compare it to the conditions on their particular piece of property and understand what the technical expectations and needs would be of submitting an application. And that's something that we can absolutely work with people during pre-consultation on. It's going to be a tool for us as well when we're doing pre-consultation with people to say, okay, on this piece of property, if this is what you want to do, here is the type of Hydro-G work that you'll need to do to support that type of application. And that guideline can be something that the applicant can refer back to. And they can also use it in conversations with their consultants.
Thanks, Summer. I may have some more talk. I don't want to take up too much time. Maybe you and I offline. I appreciate you answered a lot of my questions I had submitted earlier too as well. And I did learn a little bit from that too as well. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, if there's any I miss, please feel free to follow up with us.
Okay, so go to Ian, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Again, thank you very much for the presentation, Summer. That was great. I think it's great to let everybody understand what the process really is, and kind of just touching on the base of what you said. I think that one of the misnomers, the big misnomer, is the pre-consultation piece. I was just talking to a person yesterday actually, and this whole thing came up of they're trying to sever lots. It's taking a long time, and in their mind the process keeps on changing. And one of the things is the hydrogeological study, and I think that maybe the people aren't being made aware of what some requirements are prior to starting the process, and then it adds a whole wall of confusion, and then everybody starts to get a rile with the length of time and how much money it costs to get some of these things done. I guess kind of going back to Councillor Jennings' point there, since I've been on council, there's been a couple instances I think where we've had site plans that went in, they came to council, and we've gotten a letter back from the Conservation Authority saying that they had really no concerns in regards to what was going on with the site plan. And then the person kind of gets going into the process, and the next thing you know, there's a bunch of site plan restrictions that have been put in place, and a lot of them are being, I don't know if they're being fairly blamed, but pushed towards the RVCA. So I guess in what you're saying right now is that if you guys send us a letter saying that you guys have no concerns, then anything else that goes on with that site is more or less the wants or needs, I guess, of the township.
Yeah, I think it's our goal always to be very clear as early in the process as possible with respect to any sort of concerns the Conservation Authority has. So we don't want the process to limp along and, we're identifying issues in a piecemeal fashion. We like to be very upfront and transparent with the applicant as early as possible to say, here are all of the issues that we can identify, and here's all the potential obstacles that you may have to overcome, and give them guidance in terms of how to do that. So I think that would be an interesting conversation for us to take offline with you, and maybe better understand if you have a couple of examples of those types of files, our staff can pull the files on our end and look into them a little bit more closely, just to make sure that there wasn't a misstep in the process. And if that was the case, it would be a good learning case for us. But I think if we take it offline and know some specifics about the property, we could look into it and let you know in terms of whether those conditions came from the Conservation Authority or if they were based from the municipality.
All right.
Thank you. Sorry, Ian.
No, I just wanted to thank you very much, Summer and Glenn, for coming.
Yeah, thanks also, Summer, because obviously one of the first questions will be for that type of example of was there a pre-consultation taken place or not? And which is obviously now, I mean, that's the word that you've used more than anything. And I think that's great because it's not something that happened 10 or 15 years ago. And really, to be honest, by you bringing that forward in such a great way, it really is going to continue to address issues that have arisen in Montague, and I'm sure every community, many for a long time. So that's really good that we're going to move forward in that area. So I see no other questions. And Summer and Glenn, I want to thank you both for coming, and we'll look forward to continuing our relationship. And before you go, I do have one motion here. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Kieran Jennings that the council receive the delegation from Summer Casgrain Robertson from the Rideau Valley Conservation for information. All in favor? And that's carried. So thanks very much to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thanks, Summer. Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Glenn.
So we're moving forward, everyone, and we're going to go to our reports of the municipal officers. And the first one, we'll welcome you, Simon Forbes. We're going to welcome Forbes Simon, who is going to speak to us about the Montague official plan review and update and the adoption of OPA number 1. So to everyone, if you don't know, Forbes has been with us as our consultant through this official plan review. And I feel that everybody thinks that you've done a very, very good job, Forbes, for us. So thank you again for coming. And then I also see Carl there as our great backup. So thanks to both of you. So over to you, Forbes.
Thank you very much, Reeve and Council. It's a pleasure to be before you again this evening. I did present or provide a report that's part of your agenda package, but I'm not going to go into it in detail. We've been working together now for over a year to update your official plan to be consistent with the provincial policy statement and the county official plan, and to reflect local planning issues that are priorities for council. My report concludes that the official plan amendment that's before you right now achieves those goals. We've had the required open house and public meetings, and we've, I believe, addressed all comments that have been presented to us to date. At this point in time, I believe the document that's before you is ready for adoption. And once that's done, it would then get forwarded to the county for further consideration and final approval. And so I think the report stands for itself, and I'm happy to answer any questions that may exist with the document in its present form before council.
Thank you, Forbes. So do I see any questions, Jeff?
I have a couple, Reeve. I did forward some questions off to Forbes, and thank you for your answers. For the most part, they were good. I assume we're going to have the bedrock sort of mapping as part of the process, because you said that was caught, and we're going to, and that'll be an update there.
May I address that, Reeve,
yes,
directly?
Yes.
So Councillor Carroll brought up the fact that we had introduced policies regarding karst topography, but that there was no indication of areas on the map where karst features exist. So why did we have the policy? I did do a lot of investigation into that over the last couple of days. And my GIS technician went to the root source of data when he was preparing maps. And the 2 locations that were identified by the ministry never showed up in any of their databases. And so they never got captured and they never got picked up. And so what we've initiated is a discussion with ministry about the nature of those 2 spots and whether they should be included or not. And I'm not convinced yet that they are legitimate sites. But that's going to be a discussion. I would submit to council that would be a discussion that could be had during the county approval process. And I'm quite comfortable with the document the way it is right now, and would recommend that it proceed, and that if there are additional clarifications from the ministry, we can deal with those as modifications at the county, and modifications always come back to the local municipality to be reviewed and discussed.
Thanks, Rod. Did you have another question?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a
No,
couple.
I'm hearing a lot. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of background noise, and I'm just not sure where it's coming from. And I was only asking you if you had another question. So
Yeah, you were glitching
over
there.
to you, Jeff.
Thanks. The other one, I guess, was about the Hydro G stuff. We just heard from Summer tonight that they're still drafting stuff to go to the county, and I'm wondering, is this something that we should amend? We should not put Hydro G talk in our policy yet until the county is kind of approved what they're looking at, or what the recommendations are from RVCA to put into the county's discussion, and our representative of the county have a chance to be part of that discussion, and then we can maybe make an amendment after to put that in, since we haven't got there yet. We haven't got it, like, sort of a county, hasn't hit the county discussion point yet.
And I think that's a very interesting point, Councillor Carroll. When we started this process, the RVCA had not initiated their process yet, and there was a complete void in terms of direction on when a Hydro G should be required in your planning document. And so what we did is we looked at other municipalities and basically took the best in class and pulled it together based on our research. I'm comfortable with the policies going forward as they are submitted. They're very general in nature. I think you'll see the Conservation Authority policies much more detailed, but I do respect the idea of removing that section from your amendment and waiting for the Conservation Authority, assuming that you're going to amend your document at that point in time. But I think the policies, the way they are now, are pretty general in nature. It doesn't speak to whether it's a scoped or a very specific Hydro G. It just talks in general about when they get triggered. But I do respect the position you're bringing forward, and I understand it.
Thanks.
Thanks for. I have a couple more to read. Sorry if I can just keep going, and then I'll be done as quick as I can here. I appreciate that. I think, I don't know how general they are, because we're talking about exactly when there's this kickstarts. Anything more than one, we're going to do that. We're going to kickstart it. But I appreciate that, and I'll see if my fellow council members feel that way. The other one I have about strip development, I had asked you about too as well, and I think this might be an open one for a conversation with our council members, because there was that 300 meters, and after 300 meters, I find that quite big. So we could have our allotment of houses in a 300 meter space, but then we have to have a break of 300 meters. And I would almost propose that that should be a little bit smaller, just because I feel like it's gonna. I understand we want to keep the look of the country look, but that's a pretty big gap, and I'm wondering if that also inhibits some of the proper development that we may be looking for on those roads that could be beneficial.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. The issue of strip development is a challenging one, and it's something that a number of municipalities have dealt with. And this policy that before you has been tried and tested in other municipalities, and it's been an accepted position that 300 meter separation between lots is what is required to have a visual break, right? And not have that strip development suburban look in your rural landscape. The number is at your discretion. You can change that number if you wish. I would caution you to do so, because essentially the 300 meters represents 2 lots, right? So you would have 2 lots, then a break of 2 lots, and then 2 more lots. Making it any less than 300 meters, I think, would be ineffective in terms of the visual effect that you would get, and that it would still look and feel like strip development. But again, that's based on my years of experience. But I do, again, this is a matter of council's discretion, and I would defer to your direction on that matter.
Okay, I'm Jeff. You may have another question. I'm just moving around the table a little bit. I'm going to go. I think maybe Ian, you had your hand up a little while ago.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Reeve, and thank you very much, Forrest, for all the work you've done. You've done a lot of work on this, and I think it's pretty good, and we're definitely heading in the right direction. I guess just to go on to your 300-meter item that you were just talking about, I kind of agree with you there. I think that you need that little bit of separation distance, and I think that it really helps to push the cluster development that we're looking for as well, right? And that's the whole idea behind it, that we want to have people do these clusters instead of like what you just mentioned about the strip development along all the fronts of our roads. So I think that's a good way to help that push that the cluster idea. And I want to go back to the hydro study just slightly, just for a second, I guess. So right now in our official plan, there's nothing that triggers the hydrogeological study. Is that what you just said?
Yes, more or less. For rural severances, yes.
So how does it come about right now, I guess is my question. So what's the factor that forces a hydrogeological study today?
That's a really good question. Typically what would happen is an application would be submitted, and then it would be through the review of those applications that it would be determined that a hydro-G was needed, whether typically from comments from the Conservation Authority or the Health Unit. What this does is takes sort of the conventional wisdom of what we've learned over the last 15 years with respect to hydro-Gs and say, listen, here are the scenarios under which a hydro-G is going to be required. And that gets the applicant, again, being their eyes wide open, just like Summer was talking about with pre-consultation, having effective policy that gives direction functions like a pre-consultation, that they know that they would need to do a hydrogeologic study and they need to put $5,000 or $6,000 in their budget.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's what we're kind of alluding to, and kind of what I spoke to Ms. Crashkin Roberts about as well, was that people start into this process and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're putting out an additional $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 bill for a hydrogeological study that they weren't really anticipating having to pay at the onset of their severance. So I think that having this put in there is pretty important. And, we can always amend it as we need to. But I think that having it in there is a pretty important piece of the puzzle. Thank you so very much.
Okay, so I think we better move on, everybody. We've dealt with this, I think. And yes, Christy, did you have? Yes, Christy?
Carl has his hand up.
I'm sorry, I didn't see where. Sorry, Carl. I don't. Okay, you were off my screen there for a minute. Okay, Carl, over to you.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up on a couple of items, my understanding of what the county is going to be working on with respect to hydro-Gs is spelling out what exactly is the sort of operational details and the technical requirements of what needs to go in there, what the consultant needs to be looking at, which is in a little bit more prescriptive detail and technical detail than normally what would be in the official plan policy. What I like about what's being proposed right now is it sets clear parameter in our official plan policy is that it sets clear parameters for where a hydrogeological study would be required. So as council is aware, we've had some challenges with a couple of properties and developments on a couple of lots over the last year where issues where these have sometimes been conditions of consent approval and challenges have been identified on lots. So getting this in the policy and establishing a consistent framework that triggers the requirement for it right off the bat gives everybody that same information at the very beginning, which will assist the pre-consultation and remove any sort of sense that it might be arbitrary when these are requested. So I think that's very important, just to give that certainty to developers as well as us as to when that's going to be required. And another thing with respect to the question of strip development, I think that's an excellent conversation, and I don't want to put Stephen on the spot here as well, but I think another challenge that I've seen in my experience in some municipalities is if a considerable number of severances are approved in a row on a street, that poses operational challenges for the street, potential safety challenges. We're looking at maybe reducing speed limits or a lot more driveways on there. So it's not just a question of the visual impact, but it's also the question of the operational capacity of the road. So I think I know we're dealing with a couple of severances in Montague right now where we have several lots all in a row. And I've had some conversations with Stephen about that and whether there's safety concerns, and we're really digging into, do we need to look at shared entrances or any other challenges? So I think that's another important item, an aspect for considering separation distances, especially on straight rural roads. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Carl. Yes, Claus?
Yeah, I want to thank Carl for bringing that up. The thought that I had was the cost of operations when there's strip development on roads. We have some of that on Rosedale Road already, where there's quite a strip of some development. So I think the separation is a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I think we'll move on then, everyone. We do have a motion which was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight, that the council received the following report, and that being the Montague Official Plan Review and Update, adoption of OPA number 1, and that the following be approved: that council adopt OPA number 1 as presented at the public meeting of October the 28th, 2021, and direct the clerk to publish a notice of adoption and forward the adopted OPA number 1 to Lanark County for approval. All in favor? That's unanimous, and that is carried. And I think that's a great thing to move forward with tonight. So thanks to everybody that has done all of this background work, and that will be another step in the process. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Council. It's been a pleasure working with you through this project, and I've gained insight into your municipality and a respect for you as council, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And you can come back and visit and enjoy yourself anytime.
Thank you, and I will. Take care.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, Carl. Okay, so we're going to move forward then to our next report, and that's going to be yours, Stephen, on the community fiber agreement.
Thank you, Reid.
Yes.
Yeah, so this report's based on a delegation which was completed by Community Fiber earlier in October. Staff brought a report to committee of the whole detailing kind of what it would be consisting of. And the basics of the report is more or less just going through what's going on and the agreements that would be in place, as well as a contract that would be signed by the municipality and by Community Fiber. A few important notes was that the liability for any damages would be waived for the township due to maintenance operations, and also for potential realignment in that area. It has been heavily discussed, and they have been advised that we may need them to relocate their lines if relocation is happening along there. And the contract is one that other municipalities have already completed and with another contractor, and it's just a very generic contract that is used by many people. And that's the report on the Pioneer Road fiber.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Do we have any questions and comments first? Otherwise, I see none. We do have a motion that was moved by Ian Straight, second by Claus Vandermeer, that council will receive the following report, that being the community fiber agreement on Primary Road, and that the following be approved, that council provides municipal consent to Community Fiber Company for the placement of fiber along Primary Road as per the attached contract. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the next one is also yours, Stephen, and that's on the Andrewsville ATV.
Thank you, Reed. Yeah, so this report is one that was brought forward from Committee of the Whole. It was approved to add the section of roadway to the agreement that is already in place. It'd be an amendment to our existing bylaw with Rideau Lakes ATV Club. They're aware it's the bridge that crosses Andrewsville, Maine is a bridge that closes December 1st, and they will not be using it at night or anything like that, and will be following as per our current bylaw. And they're aware of the existing bylaw that Montague has with the 11 p.m. curfew, but there's that we have with them is actually before 11 p.m. So there's no worries there. So just looking for council's approval to add this.
Thanks, Stephen. Seeing no questions and comments, I do have a motion which was also moved by Claus Vandermeer and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that council receive the following report, the Andrewsville ATV report, and that the following be approved, that council approve Rideau Lakes ATV Club request to utilize Andrewsville Main Street, and that council direct staff to amend bylaw 3814, 2021. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Stephen, for that one. Moving on, the next one is also yours, Stephen, and that is on the Lanark County Tourism Grant.
Thank you, Reed. This was done with the treasurer Andrew Hodge as well. And this is just following up from the previous delegation that was completed last meeting, and just looking for council to move forward with the recommendation of installing a canoe and kayak and paddleboard launch at the end of Rainbow Valley Drive. Parking and that is there would be it would work as stated previously. Staff was there a few times when vehicles been turning around. Tractor trailers turning for 20 plus minutes. I haven't seen anything like that either. This is a very local roadway with very low traffic volumes. And it's maintained by the municipality. There's a right of way right down to the water, and the disturbances to the existing native ground will be very minimal, and working in conjunction with the Conservation Authority. All works will be done by municipal staff and be making sure that we just install a 1.8 meter walkway to, again, try to not disturb the native soil as least as we can. If Andrew has anything to add, he can go ahead.
And thank you, Stephen. And I'm sorry, Andrew, you were on the previous line, so I know that the two of you worked on this right from the beginning. So over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more quick note. Steve covered that very well and all the points. And I'd also spoke with Lanark County in regards to this initiative and our timeline, and they are acceptable if we need some time in the new year or the spring to finish this up due to weather or whatever. So I just wanted to add that note. And that just also the reminder that we can do the work we've proposed within the budget of the $5,000 that we've received from Lanark County.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, Karen?
So when we go to have our vote, I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Okay, first of all, before we do that, is there anything else? I guess I'll just say one thing to clarify, that I did see a comment that had been made by someone that this is an entry point in a developed area. I just want to clarify to everyone that this has always been a developed area. And I don't believe that it's really any more developed now than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And I speak from some experience because just to let people know that two of our leading agricultural farmers who were brothers lived on that property and really ran the most successful dairy farm in Lanark County. And I also speak from some experience of what was going on then, which, as I said, was also a developed area. That is because I personally removed all of the hay off that property for quite a few years when the two people stopped farming. And in all of the years that I would be in and out of there many, many times drawing hay, there were never a problem. And in fact, we do, as everyone knows, we own this property and the roadway and the road allowance. And at the time, this road went right in between one of the houses and the barn. And public came, public went, people used the river, people enjoyed it. The people who lived there enjoyed everyone who came. So my hope is that all experiences will be, if it's voted on and we move forward, that all experiences will be to everyone's satisfaction. And I think all we need to do is be positive, because most people are very, very respectful. And I don't see that that's ever going to change there. So I just wanted to comment on that. And I say that with a very positive feeling for the future of this. So thank you. And if there's nothing else, then I guess, okay, yes, I'll go to you, Klaus. Oh, you're
on
muted.
mute.
You're muted, Klaus.
I did that because of some background noise here, but
Yeah.
anyhow, just thanks, Reeve. In Steve's Rathwell's report there indicated about transports not being able to turn around. There are no transports that even try to turn around there. They all turn around at the mailboxes, because that's where the old roadway is, and it's a perfect turnaround spot there. And also information I want to pass on to you. If first people want to launch a canoe at Edmonds Locks, they got to pay for parking there. With this canoe little launch or kayak launch, the parking would be free. We won't be charging it, so our residents would have a free spot to do it. If you go over to Edmonds, you have to pay for parking.
Thank you. Yes, Karen?
So the comments made are residents, but that's not the intent of a tourism grant. So I mean, I don't see this being a tourism area. You make reference to when the Drummonds owned it. There was a time that I lived down the road where Klaus is, and I can say at that point we didn't have public coming down that road, because I played down at that end with the other Drummond children, as well as the family that had the boathouse at that time, and we didn't have public. And in fact, I was quite surprised to learn that that was public, because we used that as if that was their area. So, but I mean, it's now to me developed, because back then it was the boathouse, it was the two Drummonds' house. There was the property, that the red brick bungalow beside the white farmhouse that my parents had, and that was the extent of the houses on that road. So it truly wasn't that developed back then. But I mean, now if you look at how many houses are down at that cul-de-sac, there's definitely a lot more development. But as a tourism, I don't see it as being a tourism thing for launching canoes. It may be something for our residents, but I don't really see it as a tourism.
Maybe a question, maybe Stephen, maybe you know this. Do you know how many houses are actually there now?
1, 2, 3, 4.
There's currently the area off the cul-de-sac. There is one of the immediate to the left of where the launch would be, vacant lot to the right, and then there's another house to the right. There's two more adjacent on the left. So 2, 3, 4. There's 5 in that section there with the vacant lot. I met with them down there, and they're hoping to build within the next couple of years. And I would like to note, I did meet with every single resident that reached out to me, and I was more than willing to discuss this scenario with anybody that had any questions or concerns, and I'm more than willing to continue to do that. So I just want to make that quite clear.
Thank you. And I guess another comment that I would give, as I am in favor of this project for sure, and that is that when we did a survey of our recreational survey, I do believe that, and I know over the years, people have often said to me that they wish, and these are residents of Montague Township, that they wish they had more access to the Rideau Canal, which really is one of the biggest assets that we have in Montague Township. It's not being used enough, but it still is a big asset. And I know that I'm sure that people who talked in the survey about active transportation and getting people active and enjoying nature and so on, really was asking for more access to the Rideau Canal. And so I know that there's been suggestions that we just put all of the money into the one launch, but to me, the way I see it is that two launches are better than one. So I'm going to then, Karen, you've asked for a recorded vote. And so I'm going to read the motion and then I'll get Christy to help us with this. So I do have a motion, and it was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings, that council received the following report, that being the Lanark County Tourism Grant, and that the following be approved, that council directs staff to proceed with option 1 and use the $5,000 tourism initiative funds available from Lanark County to perform upgrades to the Rideau Valley Drive Road allowance. All in favor? Sorry. I'll get you to look after this part of it, Christy, please.
The recorded vote?
Yes, this is a recorded vote.
Oh, do you want me to call out the names? Sorry.
Yes. I can call out the names if you wish.
Either way works.
You go ahead because you're keeping track of it then.
All right. So Councillor Carroll,
Yay.
Councillor Jennings,
Nay.
Councillor Straight,
No.
Deputy Reeve Vandermeer,
Yes.
and Reeve Dotson.
Yes. Okay, so that is carried then. Thank you. And I'm hearing a lot of feedback, Christy. I'm hearing an awful lot of feedback.
Is that better?
We'll have to continue, maybe. Thank you. I'm just not sure where it's coming from. It could be mine. I don't know. Okay, thank you. Then moving on to our reports of the committees. The first motion I have here was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight, that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of November the 2nd, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Do we have any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. I have a motion moved by Ian Straight, second by Claus Vandermeer, that the minutes of the Marrickville Library Board meeting of October the 21st, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have some, moving on then, we have, let's see, no petitions tonight. We have some bylaws, and I'm going to read the three of them. We have the first one, which was moved by Claus Vandermeer, second by Jeff Carroll, that bylaw 3870-2021 being a bylaw to enter into a road allowance use agreement between the Reed Lakes ATV Club and the Corporation of the Town of Montague be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of November 2021. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next bylaw was moved by Jeff Carroll, second by Karen Jennings, that bylaw 3871, 2021, a bylaw to authorize an agreement between the Township of Montague and the Community Fiber Company for fiber services along Pinery Road. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of November 2021. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And the last bylaw was moved by Karen Jennings, second Ian Straight, the bylaw 3872, one bylaw to document one, the official plan be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of November 2021. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on, we have no motions and notices of motions tonight. And I do believe under correspondence, we have a motion which was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Claus Vandermeer, that council received the council assigned tasks item for information.
Bill,
Yes, Christie. Yes.
wouldn't under notices, motions and notice of motions, wouldn't that have been where Deputy Reeve Vandermeer and Councillor Carroll wanted to bring something up?
No, we're bringing it up under other business. That's what we decided in the agenda. Thanks.
Just making sure. Okay.
So, no, thank you. Thank you. So then all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. So moving on into our information meeting or items, and we did in the agenda have 8B moved forward to action. So who would like to speak towards that? I think it's you, Jeff.
I did move it forward, and it's really just about the impact assessments. I mean, I've always disagreed with the province basically holding the impact assessments, because I mean, I don't think that's a solution, an appropriate long-term solution. It's going to be something not positive is going to happen in a couple of years from now. So I just really want to support this municipality by stating that this is, not something we should be doing into this year, and now they're talking about doing for 2023 as well. So I'm just looking for support to see if council kind of agrees with me that we shouldn't be freezing our impact for the next few years, because we're going to see it negatively as far as our taxes go.
So would you like to move that as a motion?
I would like to move that, yes.
Okay, do we have a seconder, then we can put it on the floor? Moved by Claus and, moved by Jeff, seconded by Claus. Do we have any discussion on this? So yes, Ian?
This is going to be a significant thing. And I think that what Councilor Carroll just said, if we can get people to go ahead and get some of this stuff updated, it's a pretty big deal. Nobody wants to be hit with a great big assessment adjustment that's what we sit around for a couple of years, especially after the price of housing has changed around here. So it could be a pretty significant change to your taxes.
Yep. Thanks. Okay, so they have this motion moved and seconded. All in favor? Okay, we have that carried. So I will have to sign that one later, Christy. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jeff, for bringing that up. Then we're going to move forward into our unfinished and other business, and I'm going to go to you first, Claus. I think you had something, and then I think it was Jeff. Maybe I forget who was the second one. So Claus, you first.
Okay, thanks, Reeve. Most of you probably know that I have sold my business and my property here to my son. Rumors have been out there flying around pretty good and so forth. But I want to inform council that I will be still very much a part of the business, and I will still retain and own a good portion of the property and the business operation that sits as Green Acres. Although I'm moving away from here, I will be very much involved in the business. And on a legal document set up by my lawyer, I will be listed on title as part owner of the property, and also listed on the mortgage as part responsible for the mortgage that's be held on the property. So I just want to inform council if there's any questions. Just want to squash any particular rumors that may have been flying around. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Claus. And then I think it was it you, Jeff, that wanted to move something else? Thanks, Jeff.
I want to do this really quickly because the resolutions are going to come in the next our next meetings coming up. But I want to make sure the rec committee is especially go to our next meeting, starting the planning processes. And I just want to go over a couple real quick things. And if any council member has any objections, it'll just give an idea, I guess, maybe two as well. So the first one, I may have 4 points. So the first one is obviously they're just trying to prepare certain activities that'll be going for January, February, March. And one of them is the fire department right out of the gates. Just to basically, we want to have that conversation to have a information night. So we want to make sure that we can do that and that we can kind of start going forward with that and have those conversations with the fire department. And, as we bring those resolutions forward into December, we want to just make sure we can kind of get the ball rolling now. And if anybody has any objections with that, we can hear it, and then we can, then the rec committee knows that maybe they should hold off on that. If I hear no objections, then it's a positive thing, I think, for the rec committee. I just want to say, also, we're moving forward with the Christmas parade, and I think that's moving forward nicely, and we're going to have a resolution that's going to be finalized for that coming up too as well. But I think everybody's is still in favor of us obviously going forward with the Santa Claus parade, and I think things are going quite nicely as far as that goes. We also, on another note too as well, we did there's some decorating at the hall for Christmas, which I think is fantastic, and I think that's if anybody wants to drive by while they're that night. We have some Christmas lights up at the hall to try to make it look a little bit more Christmassy, and got the trees done there. And thank members of the rec committee that brought all of the lights and the decorations and everything else. It was it was a fun day, and it was great to get up all of those lights. And also, I know Chrissy's been working on this very hard with the routes and making sure that the information is getting out there. And I'm just wondering if Chrissy could just give us a quick update of when we're going to start sort of advertising. And her and I had that conversation a little bit, but just if you don't mind, reading.
Yeah. Yes. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
50?
Yeah. We have been sending out the information. So we've got it posted on all our social medias. Probably closer to next week, we'll send out a media release for that, like we did last year, from Andrew, and just letting everything know that that's happening. But yeah, the advertising going out. We're gonna have some stuff around the building showing, the parade when people come in. But yes, we've got it posted on all our social medias, as well as our e-newsletter for our residents that don't do social media but still would like our updates and that. So that goes out every 2 weeks. So.
Okay, thanks, Christy and Jeff.
Thank you, Reeve.
Okay, then we're going to move on. And before we do our confirming bylaw, oh, yes, Karen. Sorry.
So just a question with reference to our agenda tonight, where we had a couple of delegations. We actually didn't have their packages for their presentations with the delegation for our package or for the public to see. And I'm just curious why, because other delegations, their package has to be presented and posted. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone wants to comment on that.
Is that not the process though?
Yeah, yes.
Any delegation is
Andrew?
supposed to?
Yeah, Andrew?
I would just say in this situation, due to the nature of the timing and wanting to get the recreation delegation going forward, that was just how it worked. So we could look at posting those to the website so they're there for reference at this point, and then I can make note of that for future meetings as well. So that concern can be addressed.
Thanks, Andrew. Back to you, Karen.
Because is that not the process that council has in place? Is that in a delegation, you have to have your package, you have to have the outline sent in so that it does get published with our agendas, so that not only council has it, but also the members of the public? Because it's always been in the past where we've had delegations who just recently, even their application forward and everything else was there. So would that not be in the same case?
So Karen, I'm not 100% sure that we actually have a policy in place to do that. I think your suggestion is very good, and we should do it. I'm just not sure that if we have a policy, and if we don't, we can put one forward. But I'm also not sure that we've always had this prior to the meeting. It's a very good idea. It gives everybody a chance to read it and prepare any questions and comments. So your comment is well taken, and I think maybe Andrew, if you don't mind looking into it to find out if we don't have a policy, and then bring it back to us to see if council wants to create that policy, and then we have that in place. Karen?
I think it's in our procedural bylaw with reference to the delegations, but I'm not 100% sure, because I do know there is something that, so it says, persons or groups wishing to address council shall give written notice to the clerk using the form attached here to Schedule D, delegation request form, no later than 4:30 on Wednesday prior to the meeting. The notice will contain the subject matter as well as the name, address, and telephone number of the individual designated as spokesperson, and sufficient information to allow for a response or decision to be made by council. So I think there's something there.
And as Andrew said, then that in the future, we can certainly try to make sure that that works all of the time, so.
But it definitely, if at least the attachments that came through later are posted for the residents, because I know I'd like to have all of it as well.
Yep, thanks. Okay, so then we have addressed our other business, and before we go to our confirming bylaw, Christy, I'd like to ask if you have any questions from the public.
Yes, give me just 1 second to pull that up. So the first question, okay. So the first question is the cost of the Integrity Commissioner report for Councillor Straight. If no cost is shown at this time, when will council present that to the public?
I guess I'll go to you, our acting clerk, administrator, treasurer there, Andrew. That's a good question.
Yeah, so I would suggest what we could do then is I can make note of that for the next meeting and see how we'd want to proceed with communicating that and get a firm cost put together with that, with different costs and fees that relate to that issue, and come back with that in the future meeting.
Okay, thanks.
And the second question would be, I know you guys spoke about it at the beginning of the meeting, but they might not have been watching. When will the apology be made to the bylaw officer for the township?
Now, I think that question probably, as I recall, in the resolution that was carried, it spoke of this apology being made to not just to the council, but to council and public. So I guess I guess the obvious person I should go to then is you, Ian, if you have a comment on that.
I think, sorry, Bill, I think Andrew was going to check into if there was a time frame for the apology, is what we said when you asked that question earlier.
Okay. Oh, if there was, okay. I thought maybe is that what we said, or did someone point out that there was, because my question at the time was there a timeline And I thought the answer was there, that there was no timeline. I was just concerned about the timeline. So we did not, I guess the answer is that we didn't put a timeline on it. So back to the question, I guess, whoever's asking the question is wondering when can we expect to get that apology? But I did see your hand up, Andrew, and if Ian, if you want to speak to this, that's fine too. So Andrew.
Yeah, just to reiterate from earlier in the meeting, I was going to look into that if there was a time frame, because there was not one specifically listed in the resolution. But the resolution did state the nature of a written apology and who to be apologized to. So we could follow up on that and come back with that as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Just the last one was just about where can someone find the presentations from Smith Falls and the RVCA, so we can put those on the
Okay.
website.
So yeah, that's great. Thank you for that, Christy, for doing that then. Okay,
And that's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you then. So we do have a motion. It was moved by Claus Vandermeer and second by Jeff Carroll. That bylaw 3873/2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on November the 16th, 2021. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of November, 2021. All in favor? Thank you. Also, we have a motion moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings that this meeting do now adjourn at 7:59 p.m. until the call of the Reeve is subject to need. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we'll take 3 minutes. Is that okay with everybody? 3 minutes. We'll take between now and we have our committee of the whole meeting. Thanks.
I muted Bill, so I'm trying to get him to unmute.
Not off mute yet, though.
Still muted, Bill.
Muted Bill yet.
I meant to be muted, actually.
Perfect.
I was stirring my tea. I didn't want to make too much noise. Claus, are you with us there? You're not on the screen.
I'm gonna push all the right buttons there. There.
Okay.
Too many buttons for me to push.
Okay, thanks. We're going to then open our committee, the whole meeting. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the public who are with us also. This meeting is also being live streamed electronically, and it's November the 16th. And so this meeting is now open. And I also have to want to tell council that if you have any disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. Yes, Claus?
Thanks, Reeve. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in the committee of the whole meeting on item 3B.
3B, okay. Thank you. Okay, then we also moving forward, then we have a motion by Ian Straight and seconded by Claus Vandermeer that the committee of the whole agenda dated November the 16th be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations tonight. And we're going to go straight into our first report of the municipal officers. And that's the first one is going to be yours, Stephen. That's on the 4x4 truck update. So thank you, Stephen. Over to you.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, so staff received a letter from Mike Fairs recently addressing our purchase that we made that council approved on June 15th, where we awarded to Mike Fairs for the purchase of the 4x4 half-ton truck. Unfortunately, they are unable to build that truck. It's in the line, but the amount of trucks that they have on the line and our number that we are in is not going to be processed. So they have told us a couple different options that we have. I've outlined these options in the report. And then from these options that they've given us, I've given council or committee of the whole a couple of options to consider. Basically, it is that we can just go ahead and cancel the order, wait until there's 2022 that's in, but the competitive assistance program, which municipalities utilize, are not included anymore. And then the next option would be to retender for a truck, which is option one provided by staff. This incident has happened to a number of municipalities throughout Lanark County, and a few of them are opting to retender as to keep transparency with the process, but the options are there for council to consider.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, Ian?
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephen. I guess my question is when they accepted the tender, not to be too harsh on Mike Fairs or anything, I'm not trying to be, but I guess at the end of the day, they signed and agreed to the tender. And are they not at the end of the day responsible to fulfill the tender at the quoted price?
That's a great question, Councillor Straight. That's my immediate reaction. As soon as I got this letter, I phoned Mike Fairs and had the exact same discussion, I referred to our contract that we had, and they said that they have no obligation to fulfill it as they cannot build the truck, and it's all straight from GM dealership. Something I can explore more if council would like, with more of a legal opinion, if that's something that would be sought after, but that's something I discussed with Mike Fairs, and they stated they do not have an obligation.
Just follow up to
But
that,
if council wanted you to do that, to look into that, then would we not have to just defer this motion? That I'm saying, if council wishes you to look into something legally, then we should be deferring, I think. So yes, I'll go back to you, Ian, please.
another question, Stephen, sorry to bother you. Do you have an idea of what the differential might be? Did they give you any type of a number? Like, are we talking $1,500? Are we talking $10,000? You know, that makes a pretty big difference in what it is that you might want to do at the end of the day.
Absolutely. The numbers that, again, they're very vague on what they will tell me. I tried to get as much out of them as I could. And basically what they're saying is it would probably be up in the 40s. So if we're looking from what we paid, about 45 is what it'd be. So it'd be quite a bit more in the 6,000 range to upgrade from the existing. And then they're saying that it's a price that they can't confirm at this point.
Yeah, so essentially here we are. If we would have accepted one of the other tenders last year, we would have saved taxpayers $6,000. Or, well, maybe what the variance was, because obviously it wouldn't have been the lowest tender, so there would have been a variance there of something. But we could have potentially saved the taxpayers money. All right, thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you.
And I think I saw your hand, Klaus.
Okay, thanks, Reeve. Thanks, Stephen, for the report. Unfortunate. Was there, besides the tender acceptance, a purchase order issued to Mike Fairs, or just acceptance of the tender?
Yeah, so once council awarded the tender to Mike Fairs, staff completed a purchase order, which was issued on, it would have been issued on June 16th to Mike Fairs following the council resolution being provided.
Do they have to sign anything saying they received the purchase order or agree with the purchase order?
They were communicated with that they received our order and that the order was into the queue.
Oh, I think we need to make them give us the truck. On the tender process, was there someone else who was close to Mike Fairs' tender, or maybe they might be able to supply?
At the time of the tender, there was one more bid received. It was a few $1,000s more, I believe. And they were unwilling to give us a delivery date as well. So judging by driving past the second place dealership, I'm sensing they probably wouldn't have been able to provide anything either, but that's something I could explore.
No, if you drive by Mike Fairs' dealership or some of the other ones, their lots are pretty empty. It's supply and demand is terrible right now. So anyhow, it's unfortunate, but what are you gonna do?
Anything else then on this? Okay, I do have a motion. It was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Jeff Carroll that the committee of the whole receive the following report on the 4x4 truck update, and that the following be recommended to council: that committee of the whole advise staff to retender for the purchase of a 1/2 ton in 2022, and that this matter be brought to the council meeting of December the 7th, 2021 to finalize the motion. All in favor? Okay. I'm not really seeing everybody's hands, and I'm only seeing a couple of half hands. So all in favor? And that opposed? So
Bill?
I guess, sorry, yes, Karen?
I'd like to put forward the motion like you had suggested, where we get a legal opinion before we make a decision.
Yeah, because, yeah, I appreciate that but I just wondered, maybe I'll ask you this question, Andrew. if we did approve this tonight, if we approve this tonight, then we have the 2 weeks to look into it legally. Can we reverse this? This is only at committee of the whole meeting. So could this still be reversed at the committee meeting if you find out some legal ramifications that we should know about? So
might be better to defer it. I would think it might be easier.
the reason that I'm asking, go ahead, sorry.
Just in my past experience, if a dealership cannot obtain a piece of inventory from a factory, I don't know what legal leverage you would have for them to produce a vehicle that doesn't exist. So I would be concerned that that might not produce the results that maybe we would wish for. It
Yeah,
might be
so
difficult.
thank you. And the reason that I'm asking that question, because it was going to depend on how I was going to vote on this. And I think rather than, I'll ask council that we can still go ahead and vote on this. But I'll be breaking the tie here because it's 2 against 2 here, I think, 2 against 2. But anyways, I think it might be better to defer it rather than voting on this right now, and then deal with this in 2 weeks' time at our next meeting. That was going to be my opinion, and my opinion is only based on the fact that if you say it's better to look into this first, and just in case there is some legality that we should know about, then I think that's important. But that's kind of how I feel. Karen first, and then before we go on.
So I wouldn't have a problem then voting for it. And then, as you said, if we get the information at the next meeting, then we can in turn, we have to have the information before we approve though the committee of whole minutes so that we have the ability to defeat it.
Yeah, well, I think we should, we're giving ourselves 2 weeks to get that legal opinion. So I don't see anything wrong, because this is only committee of the whole. We can reverse that in 2 weeks' time if we wish. I believe that's correct. So then I'm going to go back, then I'm going to read this so that everybody's clear, and then I'm going to ask, because then people have spoken since we voted. So I'm going to ask for a new vote on this. So this was that council committee of the whole advised staff to retender for the purchase of a 0.5 ton in 2022, and that this matter be brought to the council meeting of December the 7th, 2021 to finalize the motion. All in favor? Opposed? I didn't see your hand one way or the other there, Ian. Are you abstaining?
In favor, Reeve.
Okay, then it's carried. That is carried then unanimously, and then I guess that's just staff direction for you then, Andrew, to look into this for us before the next meeting. Thanks. Okay, and thank you for that, Stephen. Then we'll move on.
Second, Reeve.
Yes.
I'm gonna disappear.
Okay, thanks. So the next one is yours, Andrew. That's on the, yes, on the custodial services RFQ results.
Thank you. So this report is for information this evening in regards to the RFQ for custodial services. And the recommendation is that council receives this report for information. So this was put out to tender and the tender closed November 10th, 2021 at 11 a.m. And we had a number of people take the tender, but only one return a submission to the township, and it was not a valid submission, so it could not be considered. I've attached a couple of pieces of information here to be there for review for council. Also, some new information I received just yesterday and today, since I had written this report last week, has come forward. And so I'll just quickly review that as well for council. So the minutes of October 5th, 2021 had presented the RFQ to be approved with a close date of November 17th at 2 p.m. In the process of putting this tender out, it was updated with updated contact information, and the closing date was published as November 10th, 11 a.m. and advertised as such and carried out as such, as opposed to November 17th. So the township's current cleaning company had looked at the RFQ from the minutes of that October 5th meeting as opposed to the published tender package that was put out. This has caused some confusion and created a situation where they were working towards a November 17th expectation as opposed to the closing date of November 10th. So the way this relates to the recommendation of this report, the bottom line being that by receiving this report for information, then we could wait and do the RFQ again after discussing in the 2022 budget. And then will give us a chance to look at the economic climate in the new year and the priorities as a whole for the township. And because of the confusion in the process, therefore, we could continue as is with the interim arrangement until that time. So that would align with accepting the report for information.
Okay, any comments, questions? Yes, Jeffrey?
Seeing how the tomorrow is the date of the 17th and we have no legitimate, so nothing to compete against, would that contractor have the ability to still submit something by tomorrow and that be accepted, or is that not really? It's just better just to retender.
I believe with the confusion and the mix-up, it'd be better to retender so that it's equal playing field for anybody who may wish to submit.
Again,
we should follow and retender it. We could either retender, I guess, sooner or later, but my recommendation would be because there was a lack of response from the people who took the tender, that doing it again right away may not yield different results regardless.
Thank you for that, Andrew.
I don't think that 1 week later we would generate any difference in 1 week. So anything else on this? Okay, then we do have a motion here, and I'll read it. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Kieran Jennings that the committee of the whole receive the following report. That's the custodian services RFQ results, and that the following be recommended to council. That council receive this report for information. So if we pass this, then does that mean that we just carry on as it is right now?
Right.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, Andrew, for that one. And the next one is also yours, Andrew. That's on the staff and volunteer appreciation 2021.
Yeah, and I guess we'll wait for Claus to come back.
Oh yes, we'll get Claus back. Yeah, sorry.
I'm back.
Okay, Andrew.
Great, thank you. So the next report is for action, and it's regarding staff and volunteer appreciation for 2021. And the recommendation is that council direct staff to provide gift cards of a $50 value to township staff and volunteers in place of staff and volunteer appreciation night event for 2021. And as some background, in 2020, the staff and volunteer appreciation night was canceled in response to COVID-19. And even currently looking at ongoing rules, restrictions, and still a presence of COVID, there's a concern that, putting all the township staff and volunteers in one place could expose them to a potential outbreak, which if that were to occur, could affect all the township services simultaneously. So And there are some daily current increases in COVID count kind of being measured and noticed lately. So our overall budget for 2021 for volunteer appreciation was once again $3,500. And so the recommendation is to proceed similar to last year with the same process in place of that evening, with $50 increments being split between local places. And just as a note, the chart in this report shows 3 businesses, and actually last year it was also Giant Tiger was decided to be used. There was actually 4 businesses that it was split between. And by using, last year it was recommended a $60 increment and it was adjusted to 50. And by using 50 this year with a number of volunteer count, that would work within our budget.
Thank you, Andrew, and I appreciate you bringing up about Giant Tiger because I was going to, because I didn't see it in the report. And obviously they sell an awful lot. They've got a big section of groceries like the others. So thank you for catching that. I'm going to go to you first, Karen, and then to Claus.
So we will be adding Giant Tiger then to the list, correct?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Claus?
Hey, thanks for your question, Andrew. You indicated, Andrew, that the risk of an outbreak amongst ourselves, staff, and so forth, are most of us are good to anyone who's not vaccinated that would mitigate that risk?
We're looking at vaccinations regarding our vaccination policy, but there still could be a risk of spreading or getting it, I believe, even still with vaccinations.
Follow up on May Reeve. I'm just questioning what's the difference between us having this party and the firemen having their pit barbecue back in September, which they had was quite successful and there's no outbreak.
I think one answer that I may give you, Claus, is that what we're talking about here is that we're talking about bringing every staff member and every volunteer together in the room. And that's quite a bit different than the pit barbecue where you were talking, yes, we were talking many volunteer firemen, but a lot of it was outside also. But as it's been pointed out right now, that if we have something for all staff and all volunteers and you get every one of them in the room and something happens, what do we do? But I'll open it up. Anybody else have a question or comment about that? Andrew, do you have any comment on that?
Just the other thing is if you were to consider an event like that indoors, there'd be another large number of criteria to be met, vaccination, passport checking and things like that, that it may be more challenging to enforce or police and administer.
Okay, Karen?
The other thing under the health regulations is you're not to have office social bubbles in the lunchrooms because you don't live in the same household, where when you had the fireman pit barbecue, you were hoping that it was the same family or your social circle, like your bubble, that sat at the same tables. And that's because currently, even though we have moved forward, you still are not allowed in a workplace to have lunchroom bubbles. And that essentially is what we would be doing by having our own. And I mean, I'd love to, but in order to have that, you're going to have all the members sitting together that are definitely not from the same household.
Okay, I think we've heard from everyone. I don't see any other hands up then. I do have a motion. It was moved by Karen Jennings, seconded by Ian Straight. The Committee of the Whole received the Staff and Volunteer Appreciation 2021 report, and that the following be recommended to Council, that Council direct staff to provide gift cards of a $50 value to township staff and volunteers in place of Staff and Volunteer Appreciation Night event for 2021. All in favor? Thank you. Just a comment of something that I heard after last year's what we did last year, and I heard this from more than one of the people who received these gift cards. In both cases I heard from, they definitely missed getting together, and they would have preferred getting together, but because we didn't, and we gave the gift cards, they were very, very appreciative of it. But what they did, though, was they went and made a donation, I believe it was to the food bank, in their name. So other people benefited from what we did. So I just wanted to comment on that. And the other thing is what I was going to mention earlier, but forgot to when we were talking about adding Giant Tiger to the list. And we still could do this if you wish. It wasn't part of the resolution, which we've already voted on. But that being the idea of including the grocery store in Merrickville. And the reason I say that is because we've got a lot of residents who actually shop in Merrickville for groceries, possibly opposed to the 4 in Smith Falls. Just wanted to throw that out if anyone wants to comment on that idea of adding the grocery store from Merrickville. Yes, Karen.
I guess because it's for staff and volunteers, if one of the staff members or volunteers shops at the Merrickville one and would prefer to get the gift card from there, perhaps they could contact our office to let them know, and it can be held, be dealt with that way, because it would depend on where the staff and volunteer people actually shop. So I think that's the way to do it, is if you wanted to add it, just let the individuals who might shop through Merrickville contact. But I think the majority would probably be coming into the Smith Falls areas.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree that probably the majority do, but we may have one or two or more who do most of the shopping in Merrickville. So anyways, that's why I brought it up. So I think that message can be passed on to anyone that gets the gift card. Okay, so that was passed then. Thank you for that. Yes, Claus?
Yeah, sorry, Ray. Just a question, Councillor Carroll, were you planning on doing the same Christmas greeting as last year?
Well, you put me on the spot there. That's that's a cool idea. If council wants me to, I'd be happy to put together another little video for again too as well, if everybody's on board for that. Thanks for putting me on the spot there.
It went over very well.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea, and I'm happy to do it again. So if you want to, if maybe even offline, if council wants to reach out to me and say, yeah, I'm game to do it, and do a quick 2-minute video, I'm happy to put it together again and send it off to our guru Christy to post everything. That'd be great. I'm game.
Okay, so I think the way we can do this offline, as it's not really on the agenda anyway. So I think, Jeff, you'll get a pretty good idea from us whether we want you to do this or not. So thank you for that. Okay, then we're going to move on to the next report, and that's also yours, Andrew. And that is on the hospital donation.
No, so the next one is actually the municipal cost sharing agreement.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead here. So it is still yours though, and thank you for that.
Yes.
Yep, over to you.
Yeah, so this report's for action, and it's regarding the municipal recreation cost sharing multi-party agreement. This will look pretty familiar because this is the delegation we received this evening from the town of Smith Falls. And the recommendation is that council authorize the Reeve and clerk administrator to sign a multi-party recreation cost sharing agreement with the town of Smith Falls and neighboring municipalities for the period January 1, 2022 to December 31st, 2026. I won't read through the report because it is going to mirror the delegation from this evening and cover the same points. And it was actually information that the CEO of the town, Malcolm Morris, was nice enough to provide to as content for this report. We've also attached Schedule A to see the weighted assessment distribution summary. So in regards to the presentation of the delegation this evening, this would provide an equitable agreement with predictable funding that provides value and access to recreation for our township. It's been worked on through the year, and it would move us forward into the next 5 years to have that service.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions? Jeff, and then you, Jeff, Karen, and Klaus.
Just quick, do we have an idea? I understand like it's with the costing and everything else, but we kind of budgeted to, are we anticipating, Andrew, like any higher budgeted amount that's extremely higher because our percentage has changed to as well, gone up into next year? Like, are we going to go into 6 figures right out of the gates here, or are we insight from that?
I wouldn't really want to predict right now. I believe thought is, a small curving increase over time, following inflation, which is going to be also the concern of our overall budget discussion that's coming up this month. Inflationary creep is definitely higher than the year before. So I think we'll see it in all areas of our budget is the key concern.
I guess,
but at the same time, I think.
Sorry, I was going to say, because it's one thing because we've been predicting like sort of that 5% cap, which is good, but now we have about a 1% also adjustment to as well. That's changed that. That's meaning that we're not going to see a decrease in our overall starting point. We're going to see an increase in our overall starting point. So I guess I'm just more curious of, as we get into our budgeting, like when Smiths Falls is going to kind of give us an idea, so we know what we're going to have to budget for next year, because we're already talking about that. So.
Right, then we're moving on. Karen, please.
So first off, I was a little surprised to learn that our council head and administration had been dealing in meetings, because I certainly wasn't aware of any updates. But on this 5-year agreement, every year all our assessments will be reviewed, correct? So that, seeing as how our assessments seem to have had the most increased growth compared to the others, when the rolls get returned, say, for example, for 2022, 2023, 2024, when the others who have had definite assessment growth catch up, that means that theirs is going to definitely go up. It's not 5 years where we're stuck on these percentages. We will get true reflection every year based off of our assessment rolls that are produced.
The way I've understood the discussion and the way this is laid out is that what we're waiting for is the next 4-year assessment cycle to begin. And that's when it'll be remeasured and rechecked. Once that 4-year cycle is in place, then it would carry forward from there. Because that was the concern of all the discussion was, so right now, 2022 and will be the same role, except for new construction for municipalities for their taxes. So once that 4-year cycle finally gets announced and changes, then all the changes from MPAC will come into play. So that's what we're waiting to see at that time, that's when it's going to be measured.
Yeah. So
okay. Yes, Karen?
Here. My understanding was that this is taking our assessments that came through from our rolls in 2021. So all those assessments that are listed were based off of our roll of 2021, correct?
At the moment, that's right.
Okay, so what this says is that because in order to come down to that percentage allocation change was because our assessment jumped the most over all the other previous years. So then in the other years that are coming forward, why would they not just do a review of those assessments? I get that our big values are all going to change at the same time, but this is trying to tell me that our growth had more impact in our 2021 assessment than the other municipalities. So that's where we're going to start with, which is why ours went up the 0.9%, and like Smiths Falls dropped the 0.83. The others dropped the negatives, and then Marrickville Wolford went up the 0.47. But that's my understanding, is what they said was that those assessments are from the 2021 roll, and that the percentage allocation had to do with the fact that our assessment had the most impact from the previous to this one. So that's where I'm saying is if they're gonna lock us into this, we're in the 2022 roll, say, for example, there were a lot more supplementaries that hit Smith Falls or hit Elizabeth Kitley or hit Drummond North Elmsley or anywhere else, because they definitely have had a lot of growth, even Rideau Lakes. I mean, the growth that they've had. So they're trying to say that in 2021, our assessment went up the most from the previous to this. And that we're gonna have to get stuck with this for 4 years and then we address it. If it's a formula of using assessments, why wouldn't you use your assessments every year until we get to that weighted assessment change in 2024?
No, you are correct, and that's what they are saying. That's what they reported tonight to us, Karen. So do you have any answer to that, Andrew?
Yeah, so right now, just to understand, we're using 2021, and then when the 4-year cycle starts again, which it hasn't yet and won't be next year, it will get remeasured for the whole agreement at that time.
Because the next assessment is not going to be till, did they not say that it would be at least go into 2023?
Yes, they left it the same for next year and then I believe the year after. So they haven't announced the actual start date of the new 4-year cycle yet.
Okay, so I'm going to go to, were you finished, Karen?
Well, I'm just asking though, why we wouldn't just keep doing what our assessment role said. When you get them every year, it's a spreadsheet, they plug that figure in and then they just come up with the new values.
I guess one thing is that to be consistent, to try to be consistent, because there's 6 communities, I don't think that Smith Falls would want to be entertaining a different agreement with each municipality, because the whole idea of this was to do the most fair way as possible. And I don't believe that they're going to be wanting to have a different agreement with all 6 communities, because it'll run in, we could still run into problems. But Andrew, do you have anything further then? Because otherwise I'll go on to Claus next week, and then we got Ian, so.
Just as part of that, like that was part of the fee that was paid, that was to have Howard Allen do that assessment. So to do it, to check it every year would involve a fee being paid for that every year. But at this point, the plan is to pay it once the new 4-year cycle starts at that time, but not each and every year of the agreement. And then that way, the other, the nice part about the agreement would be, with it being in place, it frees staff up from the time it took to get this agreement in place to not have to do that every year, to move on and accomplish other goals. So once it's up and running.
Thanks. So Claus?
Thanks. I think Andrew probably answered my question that you don't have to do this every year. So my understanding, Andrew, then that this increase that they're giving us is going to be consistent for the next 4 years? Or is it going to change?
It's going to set the percentage rate at the 12.87% of the current study of our allocation of the operating costs until the next impact cycle is enacted, which we don't know exactly when that will be. That's the provincial government that announces that. So an impact waits for them to designate that, and we haven't seen that yet.
See, that's my problem, is that there's a lot of unknowns with this. A lot of unknowns. My other question is, they talked about having a advisory committee, and we've been asking about this for years and years and years, and still not be able to get that nailed down. I'm really befuddled why they haven't been able to do that. It can't be that difficult, really, to get all the partners together, because again, here we are spending a good chunk of taxpayers' money, and we have no say or no input as to how the management is being run at that arena. So it's disappointing that they don't have that done yet. Thank you.
Okay, Ian?
Yeah, I guess I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind reading. I'm just wondering why this wasn't brought to our council maybe a little bit earlier than the delegation, if these meetings took place, and apparently we have agreed to essentially a cost sharing agreement. It appears the council has a massive amount of questions in regards to it that maybe should have been part of that agreement process. So I'm just wondering how it occurs that we agreed to something as a council that I'm sure I didn't vote on. And yet it wasn't discussed here. Now it's being discussed at essentially after it's, the cart's before the horse at this point. The rest of the.
So I can say in that council did, I guess, appoint or approve me as sitting on this in this committee. And I know that once or twice I did report that the negotiations were ongoing and that there really had not been any agreement until the very last meeting. And in that meeting, we made it clear to each person, that we wanted Smith Falls to come around and do the delegation to each of the 6 communities. So it wasn't until the last meeting that we had any agreement, but I know for a fact that I did in a couple of meetings state that I was continuing to meet, which is what I did, which is what council wanted me to do. And we did have our 3 meetings, but as I said, there wasn't anything to report as an agreement until the last meeting. So we've had 3 meetings with 6 different council heads involved. And I thought that they were pretty fruitful. And as I said earlier tonight, that to me, it is the most fair way to do it. And it's a lot better than it ever was before we got into the agreement 5 years ago, because nobody knew what was happening then. So, and moving forward, the process is, I believe, right now that the Smith Falls is doing the same presentation as it was pointed out tonight to all 6 communities to again hear all council's comments and questions, just like what happened tonight. And until all of that process is completed, nothing is cut in stone. And I think it's an open and fair way to handle it. So that's my explanation.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? Karen?
And Mark Wolford came back to the table after walking away before, based on
Yes.
costs.
Yes. Okay, seeing no other questions then, and comments, I do have a motion here. It was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Van der Meer that the committee of the whole receive the following report. The municipal recreation cost sharing multi-party agreement, and that the following be recommended to council. That council authorize the Reeve and Clerk Administrator to sign a multi-party recreation cost-sharing agreement with the town of Smith Falls and neighboring municipalities for the period January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2026. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, and excuse me, again, I'm sorry, Ian, I didn't see your hand. It was dark there, so. I'll ask again, all in favor, everyone? All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Andrew, yours is the next one also. Thanks.
Thank you. So the next report is a report for action regarding the 2021 hospital donation. And the recommendation is the council direct staff to proceed with option 1 of this report. Back in May 18th, 2021, there was a resolution that council defer the donation to the hospital and request more information to be provided. So we've been waiting in the meantime, and we've now received 2 pieces of correspondence from the hospital. One letter is offered to meet with the REIV via Zoom to discuss contributions for the 2022 budget year. And there's also a media release that provides additional information that relates to what council had deferred in the request in resolution 187-2021 as noted above. So option 1 is that council could direct staff to take the $17,500 a year for 2 years out of reserves, and that staff inform the Perth and Smiths Falls District Hospital that additional funds cannot be requested until 2023. And that was the original option from back in May that's being recommended. And then an alternative would be to wait until our 2022 budget discussions and then consider donating the requested amount of $34,598, which is essentially both years amounts all at once. So recommended option 1.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion moved by Claus Vandermeer and seconded by Jeff Carroll that the committee of the whole receive the following report: the 2021 hospital donation report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council direct staff to proceed with option 1 of this report. All in favor? Opposed? So this is defeated. Yes, Claus?
So thank you, Ray. So my question is, now what? We turn this down flat. So we give the hospital 0 money?
I would take I would take what this means is that we've turned the hospital down for giving them any money unless somebody comes up with a different scenario in this year or next year, and dear knows how many more years. So and I guess to answer your question also, where do we go from here? I'm sure that we're going to at least want let the hospital know. So Claus, back to you, and then to Jeff.
Sorry, I'll follow up then, because before we've gone around the bush on this many times. Okay, sorry, that we had agreed that we would give them $17,000 in 2021 and $17,000 in 2022. So why can we not go back to that?
We've just turned that down now. We've just turned that down though. That was defeated.
I realize that. Well, I thought what was defeated was the whole $34,000. Like, we've let this thing slide so long that now all of a sudden we're looking at $34,000 instead of 17. Why can we not give them $17,000 now and $17,000 at the end of the year? Like, I mean, it's a hospital that every one of us use, whether we like it or not. I mean, I had an experience with my mother-in-law having a surgery done there, which was very successful, and they looked after her perfectly well and what have you. I know it's difficult to get into the hospital now because of COVID. You can't visit your relative. You got to get a scheduled time and so forth. But I was at a Shrine presentation where Margaret Helen had whatever. Sorry, Margaret. I know it just as Margaret made a presentation that everything they need for equipment does not come from the government. And we can scream all we want to say the provincial government's got to give this and the federal government's got to give us that and so forth. And they've been dishing money out pretty good to us lately, but they will not, no matter what you do, they will not give money for equipment. That's entirely up to us. And lots of other hospitals do this through donations. The Shriners, who I'm connected with through a can collection process, support the Children's Hospital in Montreal, strictly all through donations. So I can't understand. We're not.
If I could just, if I could just cut you off though, we voted on this. It was defeated, and normally the discussions should be coming up before we vote on it. And but getting back to your question, after the vote, after we've defeated this now, your question is, where do we go from here? I will come back with another comment, but I did see your hand up, Jeff.
Thanks, Reeve. I mean, just because Deputy Reeve Vandermeer brought it up, and I think making the comment about giving the hospital, the biggest problem is I've always said I've never had an issue, and I always want to reiterate that to anybody that hasn't seen maybe the past ones, to reiterate that it's not about giving money to the hospital. It's an issue with the way that this is going. This is turning into another taxation. And that's where a big thing is, that the taxation is from the province for these situations, in my point of view. And for the municipality to start to do that, we're taxing our residents in order to pay for capital costs of the hospital. And that is opening up a big door. And I'm very concerned about that. Ask that throughout the province, saying, is this being done in a lot of municipalities around the province? And the answers that we've gotten back so far is pretty well no. So, I mean, it's an interesting and it's a great initiative that the hospital put forward in order to try to generate the revenue, to try to look at the ways in order for the donation side of it. But this is my big point, once again, is that it's a taxation, it's not a donation. And that's a big distinction. And I think that's why it needs to go back. And I agree with the province and everything else. We have to get that money from there, and that's the way it has to be. And your point of Shriners, 100%, that's all donations from a party that is a charitable organization going to the hospital. We are a form of government, and we're talking about, like, once again, I keep repeating it, taxing our residents to go to the hospital. That's a form of taxation that's going to a provincially sanctioned and provincially responsible. And I haven't heard an argument that oversees that. So anyways, I'll stop on that. And that's kind of always been my position. I fully support the hospitals. I wish we could give them more.
Well, at the moment, we're giving them nothing. So,
but that's not the point, though. That's not fair, Reeve. That's not fair, Reeve. Because
I thought that we just voted to defeated the motion to give them any money. Thought that's what we just did. And the other thing is, I guess, well, when it comes to when it comes to the taxation and so on, Jeff, I guess, yeah, you're right. The our taxpayers' taxes would be going to the hospital, just like our taxpayers' money just went to the rink. And I've always said that
we're responsible for. That's what
I've always said that for me, the hospital was always extremely important, and I agree with you that it should be. We've always agreed that it should be the province looking after the hospitals. But the fact of the matter is, they're not, and they're not putting enough money into it. And our hospital is in need of money for important things. And it's been pointed out before that if they can't provide what they think they need for all of us, then we'll go to Ottawa, and we'll have our trip to Ottawa, and we'll pay our parking, and we'll wait in line in Ottawa, and so on and so on. But I agree that the province should be doing it, but they're not doing it. So that's when I feel that we should be stepping up to the plate to help them. But I guess, like, we've defeated that motion. And to me, I do differ with you here, because you're saying that it doesn't have to do with a donation. I believe it does. The resolution specifically has to do with making a donation to the hospital. It's got your issue for voting against it. I understand, and it's because of how you feel that the province should be responsible for this. I understand that, but the province isn't. So then our option then is we help them by making a donation, or we don't. So as I said, we've defeated this motion, which was option one, irregardless of the amount of money requested or anything else. Council, if they wish, can put a different option or a different proposal onto the plate, into the agenda, and we can vote on it as an amended motion. But I believe that would probably have to come back to another meeting. I would be going to you, Andrew, for that advice, whether we can or not. But I do believe that we've turned down this option, but there may be other options. So Claus, sorry, I'll go to you now.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll does make a good point. You know, taxes is taxes, and we're taxing people more and more and so forth. When I campaigned last go around, no one disagreed with the fact of giving money to the hospital that I talked to. Nobody. So maybe to bring this back again for further information, maybe we should ask our taxpayers. Maybe we should do a survey to say, would you be willing to donate more money to the hospital or whatever? I mean, when the hospital puts out a donation plea through the foundation or whatever, people give up 20, 40 bucks without a question. You know, if you add a 0.5% to their taxes, it only amounts to maybe $13 or something, or $15 or whatever. So maybe to bring this back, and this maybe what I'll ask Andrew is, can I bring this back to we survey our public about making a donation? Maybe we should ask our constituents this, should we do this, instead of making this decision ourselves, if we're afraid that they're not going to like the idea of tax increase. Andrew, well, please bring it back as additional information.
Yeah, if council would like to give direction, we could look at options in another report and bring it back to council and see what the direction is from council to do that.
Then I will go around the table and see if we have consensus to do that. I'll start off with you there, Claus.
Yes.
Karen?
No, I think if the residents are going to make a donation, they'll do it without a consensus.
Oh.
Ian?
No, I don't agree with it. I think that if the people in the township would like to go make a donation in the hospital, they're more than willing to go and do it at any point in time.
Okay, and Jeff?
I'm always interested in what people would say. So I mean, I'm always open if that's an option. I'm open to listening and seeing what kind of feedback or response comes back. I don't know if we're going to get anything out of a survey or if it's going to be so small that it's going to be hard to do it. It'd almost be better. It's kind of maybe an outlandish thing, but like during the election, is putting it as a referendum item on election ballot. But I'll entertain the idea because I'm curious. I haven't heard enough from people saying you should do this because, sorry, I'm rambling. You pointed out, Deputy Reeve, you understand where I'm coming from, and a lot of people understand that too as well. So, but I'm always open to listening to what more people have to say.
So I included also do understand where you're coming from, Jeff, but I also do agree with the consensus then. So we do have consensus that I do believe if there is a way to survey our public, then I'm definitely always in favor of that also. I'm trying to look at the bigger picture here of all of the ramifications, why we should and why we shouldn't. And I'm pretty sure that I've seen reports, economic development reports, when they ask the question to people coming into your community, they asked, one of the first things they asked is about the hospital. We are trying to develop in Montague, and as I said, one of the most important things what people do ask for is about the local hospital, which to me is definitely one of the biggest assets that we have. And so, you know, there may be interest there by our residents, but there's definitely also interest in people wanting to move to this area. And here we are, we want people to move to our area. We all seem to promote growth. And what people look for is they look for what kind of school do you have, what kind of hospital do you have, and other services. But probably your school and your hospital are the two services they look for more than anything. So we do have consensus then, Andrew, and I'm pretty sure then that if you could maybe, I guess the consensus is for you to come back to us with another report and let us know how you think we can survey or monitor whatever the public to get a handle on this or not. So that's consensus, I do believe, then, Andrew, and go to you, Karen, please.
I'm not sure if we should have been doing it because defeated was defeated and through the procedural bylaw. But anyway, I mean, you're going to go into a survey monkey that umpteen thousand people can take the survey over and over and over again. You want the public, our residents, to tell us what they want done with their tax dollars, then let our residents contact the office staff and give permission, and then you'll get your consensus in a manner of our residents versus going and having this survey done that we found out from a recreation cost sharing can be taken numerous times. So you're not going to get true accurate figures if you don't have that. But I mean, I still think it needs to come back, but it was defeated and I'm not sure we should continue with it.
I guess the consensus though is that Andrew will come back with a report and give us some options, I suppose, is how we can do this. You know, I definitely would like to be able to somehow hear from the public, but I agree with you that it has to be a kind of a foolproof survey that and how we do that, I'm not sure. And I think that's why we've given consensus to Andrew to come back and give us a report on this. You know, anyways, I'll just leave it at that for now. Yes, Christy.
I just was going to confirm the consensus, so that the consensus would be that council directs staff to bring back information from our resident, that council directs staff to bring back information from our residents with respect to the donations to the hospital, but you're wanting it to be to direct staff to bring back information with how to survey our residents.
I believe that that's what the consensus was for. And Claus, you brought it up. So is that kind of what you wanted?
That was my idea.
Yes. Christy?
For Andrew to come back with a report of how we would go about this.
Yeah. Okay. Then we're going to move on. We have no reports of committees, petitions, motions, notice of motions, and no unfinished and other business. And we have one motion left then that was moved. But before we do this, we'll go to Christy, we'll go to you and see if we have any questions.
I have one question right now. So it says under the volunteer appreciation, is council included in the 63 individuals? And if council is included, is it not a conflict of interest for council members to vote on a $50 gift certificate for themselves?
Council aren't included.
We're excluded.
We were not included last year.
Let me check one other spot to make sure we don't have any more questions. I just had a suggestion that could the township share the foundation information for donations with residents? So we could, something like that.
Yeah, I think we already covered that in our meeting, so.
And that's everything that I have here.
Okay, thank you then. We have, this motion was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings, that the committee of the whole do now adjourn at, if I can see what time is it, please, someone?
9:08.
9:08 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Thanks, Christy.
Thanks, guys.
And for helping us. Thanks.